They lowered the standard of a violation to make it where before the NCAA had to have on the record, like sourcing and evidence and documented evidence all on the record to prove someone cheated or someone, committed a violation. Now, the way the new standard works, they can use circumstantial evidence. They can use media like stories. They can use just maybe a tip of some sort. So they can use anonymous information as well, from what I understand.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome in to the Maize and Blue Reviews. Good afternoon, Michigan football. All right, there, the audio you heard at the beginning, Ross Dellenger from the College Football Inquirer. Wow, using media stories, circumstantial evidence, the new NCAA rules. That sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. Just wait till that. They try to throw the book at somebody there with some circumstantial evidence. We'll see how that ends up playing out. Well, it's the eve of National Signing Day. I'm happy to be here. And for a couple minutes, I didn't know if I was going to make it today. I live by a park that's only a mile away. It's like 2 miles away. And I'm getting ready to come back from the park. It was pretty cold. I didn't walk that far. But as I was getting ready to get into the car, I looked down and the tire is flat. It isn't completely flat like a pancake, but it's pretty flat. And then I have to decide, well, can I drive the 2 miles and make it home on that tire? It looks pretty flat. Or should I get out, the temperature feeling like 9 degrees? Should I get out and attempt to put on the donut? I could change a tire. It's a little icy in the parking lot there. I've got my dog with me. He would be okay, but he wouldn't like me sitting in the car there. So I made the decision to just drive home the 2 miles. And I don't know, I made it, but I don't think it was the wisest decision. Just looking back at it, there's no great spots to pull over. In fact, you're pulling over almost into the woods. There's no spot. It's a 2-lane and 50 miles an hour, and there's nothing off onto the side except ditches and trees. And I don't know. I think I'd have been like barely off of the road. I don't know. I wouldn't have been able to change the tire, and if that was going to be the case, I'd have had to call for a tow truck. Who knows how long that would have taken? And I had been sitting out there in the car for, I don't know, hour, 2 hours. I made it. So, when something like that happens and you make it, you're like, and I don't think it was the easiest decision to make. So I didn't have to get out and change a tire. I'm just happy that I'm here. So it just feels good. I'm nice and warm. I feel good about being here, being able to talk about Michigan football with all of you. So that's where I'm at. I'm just happy to be here. I know they say that, that's a cliche in sports. We're just happy to be here. But today, I am just happy to be here. We are going to be talking about recruiting in the Nyckoles Harbor. I made a prediction yesterday on Nyckoles Harbor. I'll tell you where I'm at with that prediction today. Jadyn Davis. I made a prediction on Jadyn Davis yesterday. I'll tell you where I'm at with Davis today. And there is a commitment forthcoming over the next 24 to 48 hours. I'm pretty sure of that. So if you're not 100% sure what I'm talking about, you'll want to definitely stay tuned, because it looks like Michigan's ready to land somebody out there. If you're a member of the Maize and Blue Review, you already know who that is. That's where I got the information from. So you'll be up to speed. And don't worry, I'll tell you how to get involved with all of that as we move forward. I'll take your prediction on what you think of Harbor. He's making his announcement tomorrow at 1:00 Eastern. You like when an East Coast guy makes like an announcement at like 9 a.m, because if he's interested in a West Coast team, then you're thinking, well, 6 o'clock in the morning, that's not good. But 1:00 doesn't really tip you off anyways, and where, Harbor would be leaning. He could stay on the East Coast, 10 a.m. is perfectly fine for the West Coast. So we don't have a tell there when it comes down to Harbor, the wide receiver / tight end, or defensive end linebacker. He's as fast as anybody out there. And you watch his tape, it's pretty impressive. Just as you take a look at him, you say, wow, he passes the look test. That's for sure. He just got done out in Eugene, Oregon, and he loves track and he wants to go to the Olympics, and looks like he's got the times to be able to, this isn't just, somebody saying, yeah, I'd like to be in the Olympics. He looks like he's got those kind of times. We all know about Oregon's track program. So they got that going, and they got a lot of green out there in Oregon as well. So they got, I think, that going for them as well. South Carolina is pulled out all the stops that they have. Whatever stops they've had, they've pulled them. And, Maryland's the local team. So it looks like those four, Miami, LSU, there could be a late surprise there if one of them, comes in late with a big offer or whatever that might be. How those kind of things work with name, image, and likeness. And, this kid's a 5-star. And, this is when you get a guy like this is, if you're South Carolina, they're sitting around saying, this guy's a program changer. You're out there at Oregon, and they missed on some big time recruits. They're saying, man, we got to have this guy track and football. For as much as people around here like track and football, this guy's a must have. And so Michigan's sitting back and saying, man, apparently he's really interested in school. So Michigan's a good place to go or a good place to consider and go when you're really interested in academics. Oh, yeah, and football and track. So Michigan, they have some things going for them. And Michigan's been there all along. I mean, that's the one thing. It's not like Michigan you hadn't heard, 3 months ago. It's not like we're not talking about Harbor. We've been talking about him the whole time. He mentions Michigan all the time. Michigan has been in there. And it's one of the reasons why I feel good about Michigan's chances, but more on that in just a minute or two. The punters says, unless Harbor moves to defensive end or seriously prioritizes football over track, I'm not convinced he'll ever be much of a football player. Well, if you're running the, the 60 meter is the one that he looks like, whatever he's running, a 6.60, one of the fastest times ever, for a 60 meter kid in high school, one of the top 10 times ever, I think. So, he's got that. If you're going to be a track star and a sprinter, do you want to play defensive end? Like, it sounds pretty incredible to have a defensive end that would run some kind of, sub 6'7", 60. That, if you're a track person, you're like, what? If you're not, you're just like, what's that mean for a 40? It's fast. It's like really fast at his size, and he's incredible. But to play defensive end or outside linebacker, you'd think that, you don't want to put on a little weight. Same thing if you were going to be a tight end. So that's why if he wants to play wide receiver, and there is the part about there are guys that are football players that happen to run track, and then there are guys that are track stars that also play football. And if you're that latter one, they're like, wait a second, if it's all about speed and everything that you're doing is, you're always thinking about track first and then football secondary, that could be an issue. But those are good questions to ask. And I know what you're talking about, punters. GFF getting in on Harbor. He says universities with Olympic personnel working for them have the advantage for Harbor. His aspirations are to compete in the Paris Olympics. The first and second schools for that, Oregon and Maryland. He would put Michigan at 3, adding that South Carolina has a former coach he's been with. So they may be the 3rd team, and Michigan may be 4th. What a sobering feedback from the Gladiator. Scott following it up with more rain on this Harbor parade. South Carolina, Scott says. Wow. so far, I'm not really feeling it from the Michigan faithful. Let's go to Jeremy, who says Harbor is gone. Dad just said NIL is a major factor after the entire family said it's a non-issue because he's going to get NIL wherever he goes. Money talks. Woo! We're 3 for 3 in the negativity when it comes down. Gotta say, you guys saying, hey, you guys are just talking facts. That's all right. You don't have to. You don't have to. I'm not drawing your blood and seeing if it's maize and blue here. I think everybody bleeds maize and blue. I'm not screening you for just positivity. I want your honest opinion. So far, it is, your opinions are on the pessimistic side. Scott indicating that Ronaldo Nehemiah played in the NFL, playing. All right, let's try that again. Ronaldo Nehemiah played in the NFL after playing no college ball. Yeah, Bullet Bob Hayes was before my time for the Cowboys, but Nehemiah was not. And I can remember him. And who's the Bears had a wideout named Willie Galt, was also, I think Galt played on the 85 Bears championship team, but he was looked at as a sprinter type, Olympic type. Same thing with Nehemiah. And Nehemiah never really was a big time factor. Although, when you come in with the unbelievable track times, there's a fascination with it. There's a fascination with speed, of course, when you talk about football. And so that's why Nehemiah, even after all of these years, is still talked about. Richard says Harbor would be a fine addition to our track and field team too. No doubt. We might all have to go down and watch some track, down at Michigan. GFF says that Harbor's nickel is not Ronaldo Nehemiah. I think Nehemiah was more of a hurdles guy, right? GFF. Marcus says, how are we looking on replacing Moody? Metzner. Well, Michigan has, I think, and one thing about Jake Moody is he came in as a walk-on, but just looking at the scholarship situation for next year, Michigan has a kicker that's been around, Tommy Doman. Tommy Doman. I'm not sure if it's Doman or Duman. Duman. I'm going to go with it. Sounds better to me until I'm corrected. And he could be a punter. He could be a place kicker. He could be both. Michigan also signed Adam Samaha, who is part of this 23 class in the early signing period. I would think it would be one of those two right now. That is how it looks. Scott is indicating that, hey, and so everybody, hey, they're all Michigan fans. Let's see, Andres, he was all about Harbor yesterday, talking about him. Something tells him that Harbor is going to be a bust. Bob Hayes, the bullet, was fast but lacked fundamentals and good hands. Well, Richard, you missed yesterday. We were talking about Harbor's hands, weren't we? Ty Black, if I heard any news on the transfer, Davison, you mean Davison Igbinosun? Davis Igbinosun? I do have some breaking news on him. There's a corner out of Ole Miss, highly rated, one of the best, the people that are judging the guys that are in the recruiting portal. And the corner from Ole Miss has made a decision. Davison Igbinosun. It's not good news, Ty. He is heading to Ohio State, according to reports. So, Michigan never seemed like even though they got a visit out of him, never seemed like it was going to happen there for the Wolverines, and it has not happened for Michigan when it comes to Davison Igbenison. So it was fun while that lasted. So I made my prediction yesterday with Harbor, and I picked Nyckoles Harbor tomorrow at 1:00 to go to Michigan. Michigan has been in there all along. Michigan has a fine track and field program that will be able to get him to the Olympics. He's really interested in the academic side. Michigan's got that going for him, especially when you compare him to these other schools. No offense. And the football program also says he can play anywhere he wants. And when you look, again, no offense, at all of those schools, Michigan's doing a lot better. So Michigan has some things going for them. People mentioned name, image, and likeness. And if you're going to pay upfront money in Harbor, is going to be getting some offers. That's going to be a tough thing to overcome. And the track and field situations at all those other schools that people have been talking about, those could be tough things to overcome as well. But I have the arrow pointing up towards Michigan, Michigan trending up tomorrow for Nyckoles Harbor. Now, I told you that was yesterday, and I still am staying with that prediction. If he does not commit to Michigan, I'll shave my beard and shave my head. This is my first forecast officially that I'm putting in. Nyckoles Harbor to Michigan. I'll shave my head and my beard if it doesn't happen. Now, I did talk with some experts. Amazing Blue Review. And the experts are like the folks that are on here. They have Michigan and Harbor trending down. And one, Josh Henschke, the publisher of the Maize and Blue Review, I'm not speaking for him. I'm just telling you that he is with the feeling that Harbor to Michigan is trending down. Me? I've got Harbor trending up. I think the Wolverines are going to shock the world, and they're going to land Nyckoles Harbor tomorrow. Everybody else that I talk with, they feel that Nyckoles Harbor is gone. I like him. Everybody else thinks he's going to be a Duck. I think he's going to Michigan. Others think he's going to Maryland. I think he's going to Michigan. Others think, even here on the board, think he's headed to USC, South Carolina. I think Michigan, but if I had to pick a number 2, I'd pick Oregon because of their track program and because they are known to play the name, image, and likeness game with offering money up front. And why do I say that? What proof do I have? Well, when Dante Moore committed to Michigan, I talked with somebody that gave me numbers that Michigan had to beat to get Dante Moore. And I can't say 100% if that is what Oregon was going to give Dante Moore to go there. And it also included jobs for his parents working at Nike in Eugene there. I think a half dozen jobs, and I think it was $2.5 million. That's what Michigan thought. I know that's what Michigan thought that they had to beat. Now, that's a quarterback, and, he's a 5-star as well. But Harbor, while it might not be jobs to, working at the shoe factory over there, working at Nike, and it might not be 2.5, but if part of the recruiting pitch is, even if it's $500,000, I say even, here's $500,000. Here's $1 million. I mean, Harbor, if Moore's worth 2.5 in a bunch of jobs, a half dozen jobs, is Harbor worth $1 million in NIL money with Oregon? I think so. So that is a tough thing to beat. So that is why a lot of people have this frowny face and this Harbor trending down. I still am not deterred. I have him trending up still. And I'll keep that screen on there for you. And you know who's with me? Richard is with me, it seems like. And let's take some more feedback on Nyckoles Harbor. Gladiator says name, image, and likeness plays a humongous role now in elite athletes. Getting paid is more important for some than getting into the NFL. Well, if you have been named a consensus 5-star by all the different publications, that does have a value to it. Like, there's only so many 5 stars. So when you're my watch is answering me. So when you have the credentials 5-star wise, there is going to be money promised to you up front. So if that is part of the game right now, and we do know that Michigan is not playing that game. No, that's going to be the tough part for Michigan. That and the track is going to be tough. GFS following up, being a fan doesn't make us out to be unrealistic. We saw that on Harbaugh on the news front. I was pro Harbaugh and always will be. Yeah, there you go. I know I'm glad that you're giving me an honest opinion. Not everybody can do that. Not everybody can give you an honest opinion when it comes down to it. Account 22 says, guess Davison doesn't want to be good at playing defense. There's a shot at Igbenogson, Davis Igbenogson, who goes to Ohio State. Yeah, I guess he's taking what he can get, while he can. And, Ohio State's playing. Ohio State's desperate, and they're playing that game. Look, I sound like somebody that I used to always say, man, that's what all you Michigan people say. Like, Michigan's in on somebody, they lose on somebody, you automatically say, well, they just took money. But that's what it feels like is happening it feels like is what's happening with Harbor. And it also feels like what's happening with Igbenogson. But, I could be wrong. Maybe they just, maybe Harbor just really likes the track and field situation at Eugene. Certainly could be. Maybe he's not getting anything up front. His name, image, and likeness package will be dealt with once he gets there, and then they'll work on it. And, after that, same thing with Ohio State. Igbenogson's going to Ohio State, and they'll see what they can do for him. Once he gets out on the field, and they'll see what he can earn. They're not doing anything to cross the lines down there at Ohio State. You're right. We all know that. Plus, the NCAA has just hired former CIA and FBI agents to come in now and crack down on this stuff. So there you go. Marcus is rolling out some facts. He's got the Georgia kicker, Michigan's Jake Moody. And yeah, kickers are important. If that's what that was all about with that feedback, I'm with you. Jake Moody won the Illinois game. Who knows? It felt like that, the Rutgers game, maybe the Michigan State game, would have been different. I don't like to think about that, but maybe the Michigan State game this year would have been different. They needed his leg, certainly against Illinois and Michigan State. So Ohio State too, like he made some big kicks. Bullet Bob Hayes, according to Leo, averaged 20 yards a catch over a productive 10-year career. Yeah, he was that's a nice yards per catch average there, isn't it, Leo? Yeah, Scott's with me. There you go. Yeah, there's some typical right with it. We're all in the same boat here when it comes down to Harbor if he leaves. No, let's go. Let's say in the punt, people like my confidence when it comes down to Nyckoles Harbor. Let's see. We got some more predictions. Ty says Harbor is definitely a track guy more than football. No wonder Dennis thought I was being a Debbie Downer with my take. Yeah, that's right. Marcus asking a question, where the heck is Michigan with name, image, and likeness? Where the hell is Ward Manuel? Confounding times at Michigan. Not really. Like they have held the line on this, whether you like it or not. You know, it is and most I don't think like it. I don't think so. So you like it or not. You know, Michigan has decided that this was going to be the hill that they were going to die on, even though the vast majority of top 25 schools have decided that this little stop sign about not that you can pay the players, but you can't promise them anything. Everybody's like, you can't enforce that. There's no way you're going to be able to pin us down. So, you know, this isn't even us handing money like before. Now we're just saying, hey, yeah, here's the number. Come on in. If anybody asks you, just tell them no. You know, we didn't promise you anything, but we're promising it. A very easy bridge to cross, and most teams have been able to do that. Michigan has decided that they are not going to do that. And there are some that say, look, it's against the rules, so we're not doing it. So we're with Michigan because they want to play it by the rules. Except you had to alter that a little bit when Michigan had these secondary violations. Like, oh, those violations don't really matter. It's the big violation that you can't enforce that we're holding the line on. That's bad. The ones that they can actually enforce, it looks like, they don't really mean anything. So, I mean, you got to finesse it and twist it and, you know, all of that. And then you get the new stuff where the NCAA, they're hiring new people. Now they have this new thing that they're coming in where they don't need hard and fast evidence. What did Ross Dellenger say? Listen to some of this.
They lowered the standard of a violation to make it where before the NCAA had to have on the record, like sourcing and evidence and documented evidence all on the record to prove someone cheated or someone, you know, committed a violation. Now, the way the new standard works, they can use circumstantial evidence. They can use media, like stories.
Media. Are we going to use like bucknuts.com?
So they can use anonymous.
We're going to use Jim Comparoni. Jim Comparoni has sent something out that Michigan is cheating. So that seems a little bit. I mean, even for the NCAA, I mean, they're trying something here, but the attempt is now it's, you know, we know it's happening. So forget that we can't prove it. Let's go after him anyways. I don't know. That doesn't even sound good, but like, I can't wait to see how they're going to do that. Man, we don't really have we just have a bunch of circumstantial evidence. So-and-so saying that you guys are paying them. And, you know, I feel like it's going to be really easy to get around that. Like before, it was Jordan Addison who went from Pitt to USC, and everybody knew that he was already going there before he was in the transfer portal. And then he went into the transfer portal, and there he was at USC, and he was supposedly, you know, getting millions of dollars. And then he got him. Everybody's like, that seemed pretty easy. But now, if you're USC, when you go to Addison, just say, look, just don't tell anybody until you get here. And if anybody asks you, just deny it. That seems like it's going to be pretty easy. Those are like old NIL days where, yeah, you know, you suddenly have all this money. When somebody asks you where you got it, just say, you don't know. Or no, I don't think that's what you say. You say it's your uncle's. Treppa is shocked. It's trending down. Michigan makes sense for Harbor. That's what I've been thinking, Treppa. Makes a lot of sense. And account 22. Harbor's family isn't hurting for money. They want him to get a good education. Let's get back to this one. These are some uptrends. Treppa with the uptrend for Michigan. Account 22. an uptrend for Michigan. GFF, an uptrend for Good Afternoon Michigan Football. He says, hit that like button if you're watching on YouTube. There's nothing I like more than after this show, I go in and I listen to the show, and then I just break it up so you can go into the notes and, like, let's say you didn't want to hear about Nyckoles Harbor. I can't imagine that you wouldn't want to hear about Nyckoles Harbor. Well, let's just say that. And like next, we're going to Jadyn Davis, and we're 30 minutes into the show. I'll put now on to Jadyn Davis, and you would be able to skip through that. But when I go in there, there's nothing that I like more when I see the like button and I see people that have actually hit it. I'm like, that's cool. Scott wants an update on my goats. Not everybody's been able to hear about this, so I will give you a quick update. The goat was it just last Friday or 2 Fridays ago? I don't know. It's running. I think it was 2 Fridays ago. The goat is okay, but it looked really bad. She had got into the compost pit area and ate a bunch of fermented apples. And the next day when I saw her, she looked really sick. That was on that Friday. And we had the vet come out. They gave her a bunch of stuff. But the next day, she said, the vet was pretty straightforward. The vet said, well, we'll know in 3 days. She'll either be dead or she'll have, be on the mend. Wow. And the next day when I saw her, she didn't look like she was going to make it. She looked terrible. We felt so bad that we're even calling the vet, like, do you put goats out of their misery like you might do, a pet in the house? And they're like, no, just ride it out, so, but she took a turn. We had to go out and give her shots, this long needle. I was holding on to her, but she's good now. I just saw her today. Well, thanks for asking about Penelope the goat. That's what's going on. Scott says kickers are important, says Mike Lantry. For those of you that do not know who Mike Lantry is, his nickname was Super Toe. Super Toe Mike Lantry, who kicked for Michigan. And there's some famous video of some Lantry kicks. And the one, remember when they had, you probably, if you're whatever age you are, you remember the videos. Like now they have the uprights, whatever distance they are from the crossbar. They're higher than they used to be. They used to be shorter back when Super Toe was kicking, and they were down in Columbus. And Super Toe, if you draw a line up through the upright, man, it looks like it could have hit the upright. And maybe it would have bounced out, but maybe it would have bounced in. We see plenty of those doinks that end up going in. But that's how close it was for Lantry. He kicked it high enough, but it was over, and then they were down at the snake pit. So, of course, the referees were like, no good. And it cost Michigan a shot. They lost with Super Toe. And Super Toe may have missed another one. Did he miss 2 against Ohio State? He missed 1. And Super Toe, who was also Mike Lantry, a Vietnam vet. I remember at one of the Michigan banquets I was broadcasting at, and they sat down and they said, hey, it's Mike Lantry. And I shouldn't have asked about that kick. But I thought, so I'm saying, hey, Mike Lantry, how you doing? What's going on? Michigan, who are you seeing? You start talking to a kicker, but this is the thing with kickers. You either talk about game-winning kicks that they made that everybody remembers, or you talk about the other one. So, I hated to bring up the bad news, but I did it. Like, what about that kick against Ohio State? I don't remember what he said. But afterwards, I'm like, wow, that seemed like that was a pretty Debbie Downer question. Hey, Mike, your Michigan career. You missed that one against Ohio State. That would have been everything for the Wolverines. How you feeling about that one? I feel pretty bad. That's what he said. I felt bad. It's like in baseball. I covered the Tigers for a lot of years, and you normally didn't talk to closers. Even the closer would come in 1, 2, 3. The team would win. We really wouldn't talk to the closer afterwards. But if the closer blew it in the ninth, you always wanted to talk to the closer, and you had to go up to him, and you'd be like, "What'd you throw in that 3-2?" Yeah, I missed it. I'll give it up at this point to Todd Jones, the former Tiger closer. That guy, he could serve. He always stood there and took the questions after he understood. He understood the assignment. I'm off track. Let's go to our next player. Nyckoles Harbor again. If you're just joining us, I think trending up towards Michigan. I stay with that. Meanwhile, most of the people on here and talking with the experts like Josh Henschke, I feel comfortable talking for Josh in this situation. He has the trend going down to Harbor. The prediction, or the announcement, I should say, is coming tomorrow at 1:00. We'll be here at 1:00 tomorrow, and that's going to be on ESPN. So we will be able to play the Harbor announcement during the show tomorrow. I'm looking forward to that. Moving on, we have Jadyn Davis, not for this National Signing Day tomorrow, but for next year. And Jadyn Davis, I haven't seen the coach here today, but the coach is very adamant on Harbor, on Jadyn Davis, that they're calling them divas. And like, this can happen in recruiting when you have these top players and they don't commit, and you're like, hey, they either are coming in or forget them, and people can get tired of going after these stars. Meanwhile, what are you going to say to Jadyn Davis? And I know that he was like, in the summer, he's like, yeah, maybe during the football season, or I'm gonna whittle it down, maybe after the football season. Then he was like, maybe in December. So he kept pushing it back. I think all of that is understandable. And then Michigan has been right there. But this January, with what Harbaugh has been up to, it can't make you feel really good. And with the Matt Weiss situation, I mean, Harbaugh says he's coming back just as recently as January the 16th. Remember that the week or two before, here's a tweet, here's something that, is not necessarily make you feel good. There's Carolina, there's a Zoom with the Broncos. I mean, are you kidding me? And I didn't even talk about this because I didn't even feel like circling back to it again. But Jim Harbaugh, since that January the 16th, just last week, had a face-to-face with the Broncos owner who was in Ann Arbor. I mean, yeah. And if you're a Michigan fan, the only thing you can do is just say, Jim, you just hope he's playing the game. And he's, for whatever is happening, you just hope that he ends up coaching for Michigan because he's a good coach. And what he did the last 2 years was fantastic. And the team that they have next year, Michigan will have their best chance to have the best season next year if Jim Harbaugh is the coach. Meanwhile, he seems like he's ruining a bunch of things by doing what he's doing. But, he's not taking my advice. Apparently, he's taking advice from this new agent. I question that new agent. And I question Jim Harbaugh. But, hey, that's, that is a little negative when it comes down to it. But I can understand why Jadyn Davis would wait and want to wait. Meanwhile, he also needs to get to know his new quarterback coach because of the situation with Matt Weiss. That would be another reason. If he was ready to pull the trigger, he would have said, well, let me wait again. He says he's been in contact continuously with Jim Harbaugh. He said that last week. So Jim maybe said, yeah, I had a face-to-face with the Denver owner. And for the hell of it, I don't know how he sold that. I did it just to do it. I would like to know what he said to him. Be interesting to hear what he said to him, and then if Davis believed him or not. But I also made a prediction on Davis, and I will tell you what that is momentarily. If you want to know what's going on all the time, up to speed, up to the minute, well, by now you know that you should subscribe to the Maize and Blue Review Go to michigan.rivals.com and get that done, and you'll have tons of fun by being able to do that, and you'll know everything that is going on. We'll be here tomorrow on National Signing Day. We'll see what's going to shake down with Harbor at 1 o'clock. Jim Scarcelli, the former Wolverine, will be with me. We'll run through the players. We'll go through the day's events, everything up to the minute. It's going to be exciting. It is going to be fun. And that's what we're here for, excitement and for fun. And if I had the up arrow again, I would put that next to Jadyn Davis. I think that Michigan is going to land Jadyn Davis ultimately. You know, he's got a bunch of teammates that are on that Providence Day that Michigan would like to have as well. And things are looking pretty good with his teammates as well. So that doesn't mean everything, but it means something. And I still feel like Michigan is going to get Davis. And if they don't, it's not the end of the world. It just seems like it's the end of the world because they put all their eggs in the Dante Moore basket. And when that one was overturned, then it was like, well, they have to get Jadyn Davis. And I was saying the same thing. But if they strike out with Davis, they'll have to go to, you would think, the transfer portal. And that's not the end of the world. We know it hasn't been great for Michigan, you know, going to the transfer portal, even though Shea Patterson came in 5-star and, you know, Patterson, he was all right. Just all right. But if you look at the teams and the players that are moving around, you can have success going to the transfer portal. A lot of top quarterbacks in the transfer portal. Hopefully Michigan gets Davis. Hopefully J.J. McCarthy stays for another year. And, you know, that all works itself out. But you might have to go to the transfer portal if you're U of M. And that's not going to be the end of the world, going to the portal. All right. Let's grab some more feedback. Account 22 says the 23 recruiting class isn't determined by the 22 team results. The 24 class will be much better. Yeah, there's factors. I think the 22 and 23 results on the, let's see, 21 results and 22 results should have helped this year's recruiting class, account 22, to be honest. But back-to-back years can only help you. Look, you know, what Michigan has to offer, you know, prior to 21, they had everything to offer except money under the table, which, you know, wasn't, you say that's not too bad. It's really good. Everything that they had to offer. College experience and, you know, uniforms, program, all of that. They had everything to offer except going to the college football playoff and winning the Big Ten. And that was a sticking point, I'm sure. I think they lost, who knows how many recruits they lost to that. Ohio State's like, why would you want to go to Michigan? Unless you want to play in the college football playoff. Now, Michigan has that going for them. Want to play in the college football playoff? You want to win the Big Ten? And everything else, Michigan. They've got it. And the only thing that's working against Michigan now is the, you know, pay for play that they've decided not to get involved in. That is it. Because they have had the success on the field. That is the only thing. If you say whether it hurts them, but they there's other ways that they can make up for that. Like this year was the transfer portal, which they did really well in. And maybe the field will change when it comes down to the playing field will change when it comes down to name, image, and likeness and how teams are operating with it. There's a chance because it's still a little bit wild. As Richard indicates, it's a social experiment now. The NCAA, nobody around Michigan. We could sit around talking about this all the time. Here's Courtney, who we saw yesterday, who was talking about Harbor. He says Michigan has backed off of Harbor. Yeah, I don't believe that, Courtney, but, you know, hey, I don't know where you get you were really adamant. You watched the film of Harbor, so maybe you know something. I don't think that Michigan has backed off Harbor. I think they want him, although it looks like you're getting some help from the people around here. NIL has become a factor for him. Just read it this morning. Well, Courtney, if you have been, there's nothing against. I don't know who you read that story. Heck, you could have read it from right here on the Maize and Blue Review. I didn't read every story about that. So, but whoever it was, talking about name, image, and likeness. If you've been listening to this podcast, when there's a player that says it's not about the NIL or it's not about the money, you know what I hear? I don't hear, oh, it's all about the money. I hear, I don't believe that. I mean, like, I'll take your word for it. But if you're a 5-star recruit, what are you going to say? I'm here to the highest bidder, whoever's coming to the table with the best offer. You don't say that. So, it's nothing against the kids that come out and say that name, image, and likeness isn't a factor. It's nothing against the reporters or the people that are recruiting and say, no. Name, image, and likeness will not be a factor in this recruitment. I'm okay. Not going to be a factor, huh? It's just a matter of perspective. And like I said, if you are a 5-star, it's always been nice to be a 5-star, where you're ranked and everything, because where you get the offers and where you're able to go to school. Now what it means, like if you're a 5-star, that means that teams are going to offer you 100, 200, maybe millions of dollars to go there before you ever throw a football. And you say, well, does it feel a little dirty? Not really. It's really easy to get over. And you say, look, here's what the television deal is. Here's what the coaches are getting paid. Here's what the athletic director is getting paid. Here's how much the university, here's all the money that everybody's gobbling up. And they're offering you this money. Take it. You've earned it. And the players have earned it by getting those stars. Now it'd be nice to have Jim Harbaugh sitting here and say, now, Jim, how do you feel about what I just said? And would Jim say, no man knows the future. We're still more transformative over transactional. But Jim, you're making $10 million a year. Shouldn't the kid be like, yeah, you might be able to get paid down the road, if things work out here? Isn't $1 million in the hand worth, more potentially than, 2 in the bush, 3 years down the road? I mean, how's Jim going to answer that? So nothing against. Nyckoles Harbor was always going to be. NIL was always going to be important to Nyckoles Harbor. So let's just remember that. Michigan has a gigantic contract with Nike already. There's no doubt about that. But that money, I mean, the kids get shoes and merchandise left and right. They get a lot of nice stuff, but who knows how much of that are they getting $5,000-$10,000 worth? That's now I can say it. That's chump change. Chump change to Nyckoles Harbor. A tire can only be flat on one side. That sounds like something Jim Harbaugh would say. That is something Gladiator talking about other things. Okay. Let's move it on. And tomorrow, with it being National Signing Day, this is somebody that you should keep an eye on. I've put his name up here, although talking with Josh Henschke, he didn't feel great about this guy either. Not to have Josh Henschke sound like he's a big bucket of cold water today, but he was when I talked to him, with reading his stuff about Nyckoles Harbor. He also, I'm going to say it was a big cold bucket of water when it came down to Cameron Brandt, the defensive end that is from California, but it at least is somebody to monitor tomorrow. So if there's no Harbor, if there's no Brandt, and maybe it'll just be a quiet National Signing Day. Maybe actually Jim Harbaugh will sign something on National Signing Day, and maybe he won't talk to the Browns. I don't know. I don't want to make any more jokes about Jim Harbaugh. I'm done with Jim Harbaugh jokes in talk for the day. Brandon, I will be here tomorrow with bells on for Harbor. I'm not going to shave my head on the broadcast because I think I'm going to be getting a lot of people dapping me up. That's what I think is going to happen. We'll see. Scott said Michigan's first transfer worked out pretty well. That is true. Jake Rudock did. You are right. Scott, everybody likes money. Tim weighing in about 5 stars. Too many 5 stars. Flop. Remember Green for Michigan. Derek Green. It sucks. Could you imagine throwing $500,000 on him? Culture altering. Well, as much as you say too many 5 stars flop, I mean, you got to have them. It's kind of a necessary evil, you know? Here's somebody saying that somebody putting a prediction in for Brandt to go to Michigan. So, hey, let's go. We'll see what happens with that. Am I putting in a prediction? I'm putting in a prediction for Nyckoles Harbor and also for Jadyn Davis. And in the 24 class, I am also looking towards this kid from Harper Woods, a safety from Harper Woods, who is set to make an announcement Thursday at 6 o'clock. I want everybody to really take a look at this young man right here. This guy is from the state of Michigan. He is a 4-star. He is for the class of 2023. His name is Jacob Oden. Jacob Oden is the name. He's making an announcement. You talk about getting it going early, the day after National Signing Day, you start going for 24s, and I know Michigan already has a few 24s, but Jacob Oden is set to make a decision on Thursday at 6. He is down to Michigan, Penn State, Iowa, and Tennessee, and others. But it is expected that Oden could be the next Michigan commitment. Keep an eye on Jacob Oden Thursday. Keep an eye out for that. Keep it tuned in here to the Maize and Blue Review, as we will have all of that for you coming up. All right. So that's it. We'll see what happens with Harbor tomorrow at 1. We'll have fun with that. Jim Scarcelli expected to join us. Thanks, everybody, so much for watching. I'm just happy to have been able to do the broadcast. I didn't want to call in and say, hey, I had to change a tire in sub-zero weather. I had to go out on the side of the road with my dog while people are flying by at 50 miles an hour, sitting out in my car for an hour. Even though I was only a mile away, was I going to leave my car in the side of the road a mile away while I walked in a dicey situation? Again, there's no real room on the side of the road. It worked out. That's what happened. That's what's going on. So I'll be here tomorrow. I don't think I'll be, unless I get that tire changed. I'm not going to be going back out on that one. We'll see you tomorrow at 1 o'clock here on the Maize and Blue Review. Thanks for watching.